We're living in a simulation, aren't we? This gotta be a simulation. This is a simulation. And this kind of idiots have specifically been generated as NPCs to annoy me. Mission accomplished. Where is the lady in the red dress again? So this is a series of posts. Alright, the original was from Ali and said you can both oppose pornography and wear bikinis, which, I mean, yeah, I agree with this. But Joshua doesn't, and he says bikinis are soft core prawn. The inventor of the bikini, Louis Réard, couldn't get any self-respecting woman to model it for him, so the first woman to model the bikini was a stripper named Micheline Bernardini. They were also illegal to wear in public until the 1960s because they were indecent. These laws were good and right, and we should do our best to reinstate them. I keep telling you, the horseshoe effect is real, not only in politics, but in general. On one hand, we have seen what happened with like pro-feminism leftists who somehow went from emancipation, power to women, like in the 60s, wearing the miniskirts instead of this and that. They went from that to, oh, you're sexualizing, objectifying women in your video games, they're too hot, which basically led to completely covered, fat, ugly women in video games and movies, and that's the only thing that is acceptable, because even if for a second you look at a woman and think, man, she's beautiful, already toxic masculinity, cover that shit up, we don't want to see it. Take every fit blonde white woman and swap it for a black fat woman for whatever reason. I'm against all forms of swapping, but why couldn't they swap it for a good looking black woman? Whatever. Actually, I do know, because I hate everything beautiful. And don't even get me started onto the obvious persecution of redhead or ginger hair girls, which have been systematically removed from every single video game. It's like it's a hunt. I don't know what it is with ginger hair. And then on the other side, like the very conservative Christian side, somehow we went from complaining about Islam and the way they cover them up, particularly in like Saudi Arabia and places like that. I'm not saying Tunisia, where they're a little more relaxed, but I'm saying all the way like into Saudi Arabia, where they cover them and make them look like freaking ninjas, and we go, oh, look at that, that's horrible. But somehow now we pretty much got, some people are getting so Puritan that they're going into that direction, and as you can see, they want to turn it into law. So you can't show, don't you even dare to think we need to go back to 1960s somehow. In fact, probably 1950s is what they want to go back to, 1930s, and you're not allowed to wear a freaking bikini at the beach. I mean, support decency. Okay, I'm not saying be indecent, but maybe let's not go all the way to everything is softcore prawn. Because you see, here's the thing, and here's my first comeback, and I've got a lot today. I've got a lot to say about this, but my first comeback to people like this is the following. If you look at a girl at the beach wearing a bikini, normal bikini, not like the ones that basically are covering nothing, I'm saying a normal bikini, and you think of prawn, then you have a prawn brain. You can't look at a good-looking woman and appreciate her shapes, her natural beauty, without thinking of prawn. Well, that's a you problem. Personally, I'm just gonna say it here, I don't think there's anything wrong with wearing bikini, and at the end of the day, if you don't want to see bikini because you disagree with me, don't go to the freaking beach. And as far as I know, we don't see women wearing bikini at the bank. I don't think we see women wearing bikini while teaching in school. So, I mean, yeah, it's at the beach, so don't go to the beach. And that is in fact the problem with some people on my own side, meaning the Christian side, but in general. There are people that have this idea that laws should be implemented so that everyone has to follow what you think is the correct way to live. But that's a problem, because personally, yeah, I am a Christian, but I'm not a theocrat. I don't believe in a theocracy. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, and my Christian brothers need to relax. Okay, we have learned, and it's not just the Christians. With the left, it's constantly, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, I hope you die. So we need to really learn how to have a conversation. And this is another thing that we need to discuss. This constantly online state that we are all living in has placed us in a position whereby we are incapable of having a civil disagreement or a conversation. No, it's either people say exactly what you think and then you scream, based, and that's that, preach it, brother. Or the split second we agree on 99 things, but one thing, someone types something that is mildly different to what you believe, it's immediately an attack, it's immediately shameful, disgusting, what are you saying, gross, I thought you were better than that, unsubscribe. What the hell have we done with this constantly online bullshit? We are losing the ability to say, you know, man, I see where you're coming from, but I disagree, and this is why. And then you can tell me, no, but this is what I think, and that's why I double down. And then perhaps if I'm willing to listen to that, I'll say, you know what, I think you were right, you convinced me. Or I will say, no, you're wrong, because if you read it in Greek, this is what it actually says. Fine. We have lost the ability to discuss. We have lost the ability to debate. We have lost the ability to listen without going into ballistics on people. Not to mention, not everything needs to be a damn debate. That too. Like, people could share an opinion and say, oh yeah, I disagree. No, people have write freaking walls of text. That guy wrote like 7 comments this long. You think I have time to... Even if I had the time, I'd rather play a video game with, by the way, a scantily clad wizard girl. And if that offends you, it's your problem, not mine. 1, it's damn pixels. 2, who cares? That Jesus would call you a hypocrite if you look at someone else's sins, but then you are doing something far greater. And oftentimes this is the case. Okay, it does happen. I've seen it happen all my life, when you have someone telling you, oh, you shouldn't be doing that because that's wrong. Okay, but then you find out they were a wife beater. Like, seriously? So my problem is that I look at a good-looking girl in an old-school game. Well, by the way, this is an awesome video game, because I'm playing the game and that's what she looks like, and I think that's pretty. So you have a problem with that. But then again, with pixels. But then again, back home, you are there, like, smashing, kicking those ribs in, because you were a rib once, so I'm going to crack it. It belongs to me. I mean, come on. Anyways, but this is the reality we inhabit now. Everyone is immediately offended, unsubscribe, punitive action, or strawman everywhere. It's like, are you saying, and that's exactly, this annoys me particularly, because this is starting to happen. It's the same thing when I said on my videos, oh, they're showing Cleopatra and her entire family as black, but they weren't black, they were Greeks, and there is no reason to believe that they were blacks. So this is incorrect, and it's historically inaccurate. Why don't they show black queens of courts if they really wanted to show that on screen? And to that, plenty of offended leftists told me in the comments, are you saying that you hate black people and you want to only see white ethno-nationalism everywhere on screen? Shame on you. And that's the same thing. Okay, so that level of are you saying, and then mischaracterizing my point, creating a strawman and attacking that strawman, because of course it's a lot easier, because if I did actually say that, then clearly it would be so much easier to attack my point, because you could attack it on the moral standpoint or on the discussion on ethnicity and whatnot, that kind of situation. But due to the fact that my original real point was based on historical reality and sources, and due to the fact that a lot of these people that disagree and are offended never spent a single second in the sources, never mind reading them and translating them from the original language, they can't attack that argument. And so they decide to replace the argument with a mockery in order to then attack that, because it's so much easier to do. And this is intellectual cowardice. And so this is what's happening here, and it's what's happening with the other one, that they are reading something and pretending that I said something I never did. So, just like I complain a lot about whenever anything they try to push that comes from another religion, like I don't appreciate if they try and push Sharia law or whatever the heck the other law that I can never remember the name of, the one whereby if you're not a Muslim, you have to pay. There are people in the UK, for instance, that are pushing about the installment of such laws. And I disagree with that, because if you want to do that and you're a Muslim, then live according to whatever religion you want to live in. But a country should allow and protect people to have their own religion, but also not force anyone to follow the rules of any given religion. It doesn't matter that me and you, Joshua, think that the Christian religion is the right religion. Yeah, we both think that. But there will be people that are not religious, they're secular, they're atheists, there will be people that are agnostic, there will be people that belong to other religions, and it's not right to put it into law that our morals and our morality needs to be followed by them. Now, when there is a crime involved, that's different, because when your freedom oversteps mine, that's the situation whereby I think the law and the government need to make regulations for civil society, and if you don't like those regulations, change country at that point. But people going to the beach and wearing bikini does nothing to you unless you go to said beach. So no, I disagree with the idea of we need to pass laws that should be reinstated. That's insane. That's insane. Also, let's go back into history a little bit because there is something historical, and I'm going to be pedantic about this, but you know me, I'm pedantry in human form. You subscribed, you clicked the video, you knew what you were going into, so no point in complaining about my pedantry. He said that the inventor of the bikini, Louis Renard, couldn't get any self-respecting woman, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, here's the thing. He may be the inventor of the bikini in the modern sense, but due to the fact that you're not necessarily complaining about the bikini, meaning the exact shape or the exact type of material that we use or colors, but you're complaining about the idea of showing skin. Well, he's definitely not the inventor of that concept. For instance, and this is for the history enthusiasts among you, what we've got here belongs to classical antiquity. This is in fact a mosaic from the Villa Romana del Casale in Sicily, which was a villa, beautiful by the way. It's a fantastic archaeological complex. I've been there a few times. Once I took my students during a high school trip, but other times I went there with friends and foreign friends that came to visit and from Japan, and I decided to take them and show them. And yeah, we can see what the Romans did with this villa, as they often did, is that rich aristocratic families and patricians from Rome and that area would purchase land and build these gorgeous villas in Sicily, for instance, and then they would come on a vacation. And during that holiday time, they would do this. So what they're showing here in this mosaic is that we've got a lot of Roman women. And interestingly enough, and this is something that I often underline, look at the variety when it comes to the phenotypic trait. I mean, they're all white, clearly, but we've got some light brown, you've got some dark brown, some brunettes. We've got a blonde here. Now, whether she's naturally blonde or whether she's wearing a wig, we don't know. But one thing I need to always underline, because unfortunately AI channels keep pushing this nonsense, this idea that only prostitutes would wear blonde wigs is absolute nonsense. In fact, there is not any connection between prostitution and wearing blonde wigs. It doesn't mean that it never happened. It may as well have happened. The only mention has to do with a disguise inside of a literary piece, but it has nothing to do an indication that if you wear a blonde wig, you're a prostitute. In fact, we know for a fact, and the sources do tell us, that a lot of Roman women bought blonde hair wigs from the Celts and Germanic tribes because they were fashionable and they looked pretty. So, as I explained, since the kind of women that we would see in this villa would be wealthy or from affluent families, that it's possible that this is a wig. Or maybe she was blonde, because a certain percentage of blondes did exist in Italy. A smaller percentage, and even smaller in Greece, as far as I understand, but it wasn't like unheard of. Even the first emperor, Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus Augustus, probably had light brown hair, or he was dirty blonde. We don't know, because the term that they use is the term that they use for a subcategory of a darker blonde in Latin, and it's possible that he had like light brown, or maybe he had a dirty blonde hair. But regardless, blondes existed in ancient Rome as well. It's just that it was quite rare. Anyways, let's see their coverage. As you can see, they kind of look, of course, the lower garment is a little more covering than what we have in the modern period, but the upper part, it's pretty similar as a concept, isn't it? Now, are they at the beach? Not necessarily, but then again, this is Sicily we're talking about. It's not like the sea is that far away. Regardless, what they're doing is that they are exercising. So this is the kind of course, when you exercise, you sweat. It's not like they have air conditioning. So clearly, even the little weights, look at here. This is, I don't know, I kind of find it adorable. Anyways, little weights, playing with the ball, having, like here, they're basically being physically active inside the villa, for fun and for fitness. And the reason why I pointed this out, by the way, because me pointing this interesting, by the way, aspect of history was misunderstood by some people in the comments. I'm going to read those comments now and respond. But the reason why I was pointing this out was not because I'm saying, oh, we should look up to the Romans for our own moral code. Did I say that? Was it written in my post? Absolutely not. In fact, I'll read you the post, so we know exactly what I said. No, what I was saying is that even though the inventor of the bikini, because the way it was presented sounded like the inventor of the bikini, before that, oh, women were just covering themselves up, but then this guy came along with this disgusting thing that no one ever did before, and we need to resist that because we need to resist change and go back to our origins. Well, you don't want to go back to our origins because this is what they would look like, women. Not to mention If you think that this is scandalous, look at the Minoan women. They were actually going around showing their full breasts, and that was part of their fashion, if you will. If you're enjoying this video so far, please take a moment to check out my Patreon page. With as little as a $5 support, you can help us ensure that we can continue to produce high quality and high researched content. And at the same time, you get access to polls, extra videos, unlisted streams, and much more. Thank you so much. But anyways, this is what I said. Let me read my response. So I said, 1, not exactly the inventor of the concept, to be honest. That type of coverage for women has been in use since classical antiquity at least, as demonstrated by this image from the Villa Romana del Casale in Sicily. So as you see, it's not that I'm telling him, oh, but the Romans did it, so it's fine if we do it. That's not what I said. But what I was saying is because he wasn't complaining about the bikini as a specific type of dress or clothing. He was complaining about the skin that is shown. And so I was underlining that this, if you want to go back to tradition, then you have to be careful which year you go back to, because as you see, this was a thing. Now, clearly, in the medieval period, the things change. Christianity brings a new level of modicum, of modesty, in women, and of course I agree with that, but then again, do remember this. Rome was absolutely Christian. There is no reason to believe that in their privacy of their own villas, women still didn't do this after the empire became Christian, because it's still not the Middle Ages. So even when we look at it from the Christian perspective, just because Rome becomes Christian, things just don't go away overnight and become medieval, if you will. And in fact, that's actually one of the things that makes me laugh when people bring up the idea of, oh, Rome fell because of the gays. And then I always try to underline, well, if you think that Rome fell because there were too many homosexuals at the end of the empire, then you have to understand that at the end Rome was Christian. So what were there too many gays but Rome was Christian? Like, how? If anything, during the later part of the empire, I would imagine there still was the same statistical number of people who were actually homosexual, but most likely a lot of those would have kept it hidden by the time Christianity became the main religion. And it's possible that some would actively try to, kind of pray and resist temptation, if you will. So it's kind of funny that people forget that. They will say Rome fell because of the gays, but they don't understand that, if anything, at the end of the empire, during the Dominate, is when you would have had less public display of homosexuality. Anyways, my second point was bikinis are fine. It's only softcore prawn if you have a prawn-addicted mind. And I double down on this. I really do. I'm not a supporter of prawn. I hate people that make it sound like, yeah, girl or guy, get your money, empower. No, it's not empowerment. It's slavery. That's what prawn is. It's slavery of the mind to the senses of the desires of the body and lust after money. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. And then I say, anyhow, if I have a solution for you, don't go to the beach. Definitely preferable over a theocratic law, I say as a Christian. We already have a religion in the world that turns women into ninjas. We don't need another one. There we go. So look, showing this and saying Romans did it, so it's fine. Look at the Strawman is insane. Strawman. I never said the Romans did it, so it's fine. I was connecting to I already explained what I did. Romans fornicated so hard they made a birth control plant extinct. Yeah, I told him that that's a strawman. And that's the thing. It's not that I disagree with this person disagreeing with me. I think it's good that they disagree with me. We can have a conversation, but we cannot do that unless you address what I said. And I never said this. So maybe next time, Argobot, since there are a lot of replies here and he's saying, hey, look, man, I like your content. It's fine. That's okay. But what I'm saying is maybe next time, if you actually want to engage into discourse, then perhaps steelman my argument. If you don't know what that is, please Google it. But in other words, if this is what you think I mean, then maybe ask, rather than telling me, it's insane. No, it's insane that you think I said this. I didn't say this. I never said this. So maybe next time, ask me if this is what I mean, and then I'll tell you no. But Metatron, we can see their ankles. This is most unorthodox. Yeah, that's funny. Some guy has kind of a nice comeback. He says, small correction, prawn brain makes you so desensitized that girl in bikinis do nothing for you, not the other way around. So that's a good comeback, but I kind of resisted it a little bit, and I say my point was prawn changes the way you look at a woman from naturally attractive to lust object. And I kind of double down on that. Like, I understand where he's coming from, and it makes logical sense, and I think there are situations in which we can absolutely apply that. The idea of pornography actually makes you look for more and more and more, and so at the end of the day, you get desensitized, as this man is saying, which means you go for more degenerate stuff, and at the end of the day, you end up watching things that are absolutely... Like, these are freaking crimes. Like, when you see what people actually watch, it ends up being a damn crime. And at that point, you really have to stop and self-correct. You really need to course correct at that point, because something is going really wrong in that mind. Yeah, so there is. So I do agree with him. But I think in this case, the point wasn't that men look at girls in bikinis and when they have a prawn brain, they can't control themselves. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the way that constant exposure to continuous to sexual acts in a way that to sexual acts that are more and more degenerate and is something that we were not as a species hardwired to do, because this is not what happens. Even if you are like a king and you have 3 wives and 15 concubines, you still can't just click and watch any video you want at any time like people do today. And definitely that's not something that you start very early at a young age, as people unfortunately do today. And therefore, and then you still have to run your kingdom, you still have to train, you still have to go to war, you still have to do things that are not like these people that are unemployed in their basements, and that's literally what they do 24/7. I don't think we are hardwired to deal with that psychologically. A burger god, Christianity is literally theocratic law. I didn't know what god you're praying to, but it isn't the Christian one. And that's disgusting. To me, a person like this disgusts me as much as a woke, leftist, radical, exception being the ones that want to shoot you in the neck, and those are worse. But I'm saying someone like this is the same. First, who do you think you are to tell me what God I'm praying to? This idea that you are the judge and you are the one who says who's a Christian and who is not, the split second we disagree on something, you're here and calling me out. Shame on you. Shameful. And this is the kind of person that gets people out of Christianity. You are the reason why there is more atheists, particularly among the youth. You are the reason why people cringe at Christians and Christianity instead of giving it a shot, even though it could change their life for the better and make them happy and joyful. But you, this kind of person, the gatekeep who gets to be a Christian for ridiculous reasons, theocratic law, what are you on about? Jesus didn't force people. Theocracy forces. Continuing, are you sure bikinis modest? So here we have even a lack of understanding of how the verb to be works. Once again, where did I say bikinis are modest? I think bikinis are fine in a freaking beach. In a beach. And by the way, no one is complaining about men here. What about, can men show their bare chest and legs? Can we wear the Speedos? Can we wear no one is saying anything about that. It's always about women only for some reasons. But then again, where am I saying it that they are decent? They are indecent if you put them in a classroom with children, but they are not indecent. Yeah, Manic is correct. So many anti-prawn people expose themselves as sex prawn addicts daily on this platform, LOL. And he's absolutely right. You can say, I think prawn is bad. And that's fine, but we don't have to go all the way to, oh, now you can't, now you have to cover, you can't even show beautiful women, you have to cover up everything, you cannot show even a single inch of skin, and basically go to where the Muslims are when it comes to that. And then also push this idea that your understanding of modesty, which is of course extreme, needs to be enforced by law from the government. And this sometimes comes from people who say they are right-wing. Well, good luck to small government then. Where did that go? Holy moly. Or this other guy who talks about segregating men and women. Segregating, yeah. No, I disagree with that. If he thinks bikinis are softcore prawn, he shouldn't look up what the Spartan women wore. Yeah, or the Minoans, as I was saying. Islam would actually be cooler if the women were ninjas. At that point, they would be kunoichi, wouldn't they? It's a good one. I like how Monica interpreted the verses here. If your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, Jesus. If you have lustful eyes, you are to avoid that which you lust for. Jesus doesn't say, if your eyes causes you to sin, throw that woman in the trash bag so you can't see her anymore. I mean, exactly, like I said, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. To each his own. Each man can be his own judge. Not to mention, this of course connects to then that ideal of this is what I wanted to share with you today. And let me know if you agree, disagree, or I guess shame me in the comments. Who cares? It's all engagement. Thank you very much. If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth.